Hey guys, this is a Patreon Q&A. If you would like to be in next week's video, simply check out the link in the description and you can sign up there. I'm also going to be going into spoilers for all the series that I'm going to be discussing. First, Wolf asks, with the reveal of Luffy's essentially god devil fruit, do you think that there are other fruits similar to it? I have seen a lot of referencing to the rain, forest, and earth gods mentioned earlier on in the series. So I'm glad you brought this up first, Wolf, because a lot of people have been talking to me about this over the last couple of weeks, especially with the reveal of sun god Nika and the mythical fruit pertaining to him, because it seems like a lot of this was foreshadowed slash set up with the flashback that we got with Nolan, during Skypiea with the Shandians and 400 years ago and all that stuff. And it turns out that, yeah, I guess it was, because the main chapter that we want to take a look at is 287, because in that chapter we see like the high priest freaking out, and he's basically saying that if they want to save the Shandians, they're going to have to pay tribute to the gods through the great Kashigami, which is like the big blue Nola snake that we saw in Skypiea, but this is like his grandfather, and they'll have to offer him the blood of the most beautiful maiden in the village. And later on we see this beautiful maiden who has been chosen as the sacrifice, and her mom's like crying, and she says, "Why are you crying, Mama? I'm going to meet the sun god." So that right there is like the big thing that everybody's talking about. Like, oh my god, that was sun god Nika the whole time. And I guess it kind of is. But the really big intriguing moment comes a little later on in the chapter, because when we see the beautiful maiden being brought to the sacrificial offer, they say god of the sun, god of the rain, god of the forest, god of the earth. So naturally that makes us think, oh, is there more than just sun god Nika? Are there actually 4 mythical gods? And if so, do they have a mythical fruit attached to them? Now, before we go into what or who they could be, another thing that's been brought to my attention is the mermaid quintuplets that we see in chapter 608, in the whole Fishman Island arc, because their names are Ichika, Nika, Sanka, Yanka, and Yanka 2. And it's possible that this could be Oda's little wink as to like who the gods or the mythical gods are or were. I mean, aside from their names just being 1, 2, 3, 4, we obviously see that the second one is called Nika. And the color scheme here is pretty interesting too, because the one named Nika is red and white. And normally, with battle manga series, we could just say, oh, maybe it's just a fun little coincidence. But with One Piece and Oda, usually things are done for a very specific reason. Like, it's insane how in detail he goes with things. And I don't think that this is just a coincidence. I'm pretty sure he probably did this on purpose. But anyway, the color scheme that we see with her is red and white. Red could mean the sun, of course, and the white could be the latex or the resin, the true nature of rubber. And also why Luffy has the white aesthetic once he awakens his fruit and becomes sun god Nika. Now, as for the other colors, we see Ichika has green and white, Sanka has blue, Yanka and Yanka 2 have white and like jaguar pattern, leopard pattern, whatever. So that could correlate to the other gods, which means that Sanka could be the rain god since it's blue. Ichika could be the forest god because it's green. And then as for the earth god, maybe that could be like a duo or something, because for the joke with Yanka and Yanka 2, I mean, even in this panel it says, shouldn't your name be Goka, for 5? Now, I don't know why earth would represent white, especially since we already have that with Nika, but the jaguar leopard pattern thing makes more sense for that, I suppose. But also, if we go back to chapter 287 on the sacrificial altar, one of the individuals tying the maiden down has like a jaguar leopard costume on, and the other guy has like a bird costume on. So this could be in homage to the gods that they're referencing, maybe. Again, Oda doesn't do this stuff coincidentally. Everything is for a reason. So I wouldn't be surprised if the leopard slash jaguar patterns are connected between this and what we see with the mermaid quintuplets. Now, also, it doesn't necessarily mean that these are like literal devil fruits that exist. Maybe they just are the myths or the gods that they believed in, possibly. But I do think it would be pretty interesting if these did represent the other mythical fruits out there, or if these were just like 4 big individuals that existed back in the day, possibly. Like, obviously, Joy Boy 800 years ago was very much implied to have had the human model Nika fruit, so maybe there was like 3 others with him, and they also had mythical human fruits, except they were the rain, forest, and earth gods, and they had their own individual insane powers maybe. And I'm sure some people speculate that Dragon, Luffy's father, has one of these fruits, and I guess it's possible. It would make most sense that maybe he had the rain god fruit, but I think Dragon's fruit is what we've been thinking about since the beginning, and he probably has like either a air/wind Logia or like some kind of storm fruit. But then again, we do get some insane reveals with these fruits, and he very likely could have some kind of mythical fruit that gives him storm abilities. Why not? But yeah, I just wanted to lay that out for you guys, and let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments. Awakened Saitama asks, do you think Genos dying while making a huge sacrifice at the end of the series or during the Mad Cyborg arc would do his character justice or be a fitting ending for him? Or do you already know his purpose through the Egyptian mythology connection? So I wouldn't be surprised if Genos winds up dying in a huge sacrifice at the end of the series, especially since he really has nothing left other than like Saitama and I don't know, just helping people, especially now that Kuseno is dead. But I also think that one maybe isn't trying to craft that tragic of a character arc or just story in general here. I think it's more likely that Genos will survive at the end and maybe somehow even become like a full-blown human at some point. The Anomaly asks, would you rather have Kaido's Devil Fruit power and do everything Kaido does, or would you rather be Prime All Might with One for All, and why? So by far, I'd rather be Prime All Might with One for All. That's like my ideal power set, to be honest, and I really wouldn't like to have a Devil Fruit if I was in the One Piece world, simply because of you losing the ability to swim, and just the appeal of getting stronger through training your Haki and things like that is just more intriguing to me. I mean, don't get me wrong, if I was able to eat like the Lightning Logia or something like that, or maybe even the Magma Logia, I would probably do it, but not so much Kaido's fruit, even though it's clearly one of the best. Delamante asks, current Zoro versus Mihawk, who wins? So this is a good question to ask right now for sure, and I still don't think Zoro is quite on the level of Mihawk. And yes, I know we haven't seen Mihawk in action for over 10 years now, I think. And while his feats looked pretty impressive in Marineford, a lot of the fandom has recency bias, which is understandable. I mean, it's only natural. But given how Oda works with the power progression over time, Mihawk is probably still above Zoro and is likely to be on the Yonko level. I mean, I hope that Zoro versus Mihawk is going to be like the big final fight for him, or at least maybe his penultimate fight. And if that is the case, then Mihawk has to be, you know, way stronger than King, meaning that, you know, he would give Zoro his toughest fight in the series. So right now, he has to be much stronger than him. Jimmy P asks, what's your opinion of One Piece protagonists? Meaning, is it a glorious linear story or a visceral spectacle simultaneously weaved anthology storytelling? So if there was any battle manga that was glorious linear storytelling, it is One Piece for sure. I think it's the least of the weaved anthologies out there, to be honest. Oda has done so much meticulous crafting with this story that is truly incredible. And even after following this series pretty much most of my entire life, only just within the last year, I have been discovering like the insane nuances of it and how deep it truly goes. I mean, it has to be one of the deepest, most well-crafted stories maybe ever. I mean, name any great fiction out there, I would put One Piece up to it for sure. MajinBoros asks, do you think Garo evolving is too soon since the fight has just started, and do you think he'll transform again, maybe even twice by Saitama? I do think that Garo will evolve and transform again in this fight because of the missing patch from his face, which is obviously representing that he has not fully let go of his humanity yet, and I do think we will get to a point where he does that and becomes like 100% monster. Or at least I hope so, unless one wants to keep the narrative of only half monsters can use the power within their hearts to transform back into humans, as we saw what Bang observed with Super S's love slaves. But I personally trust One. I think he's going to land this just fine, and I don't really need this to be a one-for-one adaptation of the webcomic. I think it's fine just the way that it is, but I do think that he's going to transform again, and we'll probably get a more faithful adaptation of what Awakened Garo was. And even if we don't, it's fine with me. Natedawg asks, how do you think the Dabi fight will go? I think Todoroki will be pushed to the point of hurting himself to win, which will cause Dabi to realize he's a carbon copy of young Endeavor, causing him to attack a villain with all-out suicidal attack to make up for everything. So that would be interesting and a nice little swerve for Dabi's arc, but I think he's just too far gone to have any kind of realization or 180 in character like that at this point, even if Shoto does hurt himself, because what he ultimately does want is for Shoto to hurt. And I guess regardless of how it happens, it'll make him happy because he just wants Endeavor to suffer. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if Shoto winds up hurting himself trying to take down Dabi, but this just kind of seems like Dabi is going to go down one way or another, and maybe Dabi does have some kind of final moment of clarity and it's going to be like, you know, I'm sorry, and then he sacrifices himself or something. But I really think that he should stick to his guns here, because Dabi has kind of been set up as like, he knows what he's doing. He's kind of set on his path of, you know, his kamikaze mission. So let him just see that through. I don't really think Dabi needs any kind of redemption, to be honest. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Horikoshi kind of just shoehorns it in there. Or maybe Shoto like talk no jutsus him into something. Samurai asks, if you're comfortable sharing, I'm curious what you did before YouTube. So that's a good question. And I'll just say that I did a lot of things before YouTube. A lot of odd jobs here and there. Before I was doing YouTube full time, I was working 2 jobs, while at the same time daily uploading on the Zhoniin channel, while also couch surfing. That may sound kind of hard to believe, but I can assure you that it's the truth. But within the amount of time that I was on the workforce, you know, since high school, I feel like I've done pretty much like all of the standard jobs. I worked in the food industry, I worked at a desk, I worked in retail, I worked construction, worked transportation. There's probably even some I forgot about, but I did everything that I could possibly do just to, you know, get by. And you know, I was able to grind enough to eventually, you know, become Zhoniin. Now I'm doing this. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video today, guys, and I want to thank all of my patrons. Guys, thank you so much for continuing to support me. I really do appreciate it. And again, if you would like to be in next week's video, simply check out the link in the description and you can sign up there. And if you liked the video, please give it a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.